You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
You will fail. So what? Everybody does. But your gym, your watch, your yoga pants, they pretend you won't. So when you miss a day, eat the pancakes. Give up on a workout? You failed? Seriously, what the hell? We're Body. We've been a part of that too, but not anymore. At Body, we're rejecting perfection and embracing reality. Not in a Pizza Monday kind of way, in a loving your whole life kind of way. In a, this workout is fun and it's okay if I take a week off kind of way. In an, I'm eating healthy and it's okay if I indulge kind of way. In a, I like myself no matter what kind of way. Yeah, you will fail. We all will. But we're not gonna let that be the end. You see that? We're already making progress. So let's keep going. We are Body. Start your free trial at body.com. That's BODI.com.
It's JCPenney's Happy Birthday Sale, and the gifts are all yours. Celebrate this Saturday with an in-store coupon giveaway. You could peel and reveal $10, $50, or even $100 off. Don't miss out, but if you do, grab a coupon on the JCPenney app to save an extra 25% all week long. Hurry, party ends Sunday. JCPenney. Coupon giveaway valid 4/15 while supplies last. In-store only. Must be 18 or older. % off coupon valid through 4/16. Exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
The media wanted to tell my story. And it was during the pandemic, I think people were tired of really a lot of negativity and how depressing everything was. So they just were really featuring stories of perseverance and positivity. And I was just at the right place at the right time for all of that.
Hey everyone, welcome to Was It Chance, the podcast about embracing opportunity and taking intentional risk for your creative life. I'm Heather Vickery.
And I'm Alan Seals. And Heather and I started off as two perfect strangers who met by chance and embraced opportunity. Listen in as we chat with other successful people about the risks they've taken to put themselves on a path to creative success.
Alan, I am so excited. I really am to introduce José Rolón. Am I saying your last name right, Rolón?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Oh, thank you. Jose calls himself a nuptial maestro, which I think is fucking fantastic as a recovering wedding planner myself. I love it. So for almost a decade, Jose has made a name for himself with his very chill vibe and generous command in wedding planning and design, which has made him one of the top wedding planners in New York City. However, now he has this really interesting story that's taken an unexpected and delightful turn. During the pandemic and quarantine, Jose and his family chose to take TikTok by storm. And as a result, he has become completely viral. I mean, big time viral. Featured on the Today Show, Now This News, Ellen's Game of Games. I mean, the list, I'm not even going to go on. We'll put them all in the show notes. Holy shit. Jose, welcome to Was It Chance?
Thank you very much for that. Thanks for that intro. Thanks for having me on.
I want to start with a very, very deep question, and I want to know what generous command refers to. In part of in the intro, you said it's chill vibe and generous command.
I did pull that straight from your bio, Jose.
Well, Alan, you have to hire me in order to see what that generous command looks like.
Maybe
I wasn't taking it there.
That really sounds inappropriate, fellas.
Listen, I was not taking it there, but now we went there. I think your generous command looks very nice.
He was talking about event planning.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
You're inappropriate.
From his social media, it looks like his event planning is very, very well endowed.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I told you, you unleashed him right before we started recording. Jose unleashed Alan, and I make no apologies or promises to any of you for the rest of the hour.
This is going to be a wild ride. Everybody strap in.
Well, and now Alan asked this silly question, and I kind of feel like the asshole because I'm going to ask the serious question. So this show is about embracing chance and manifesting, creating a life that you want. But chance kind of fucked with you in a really big way. And what you've done since then is incredible. But you lost your husband. Would you share the story of losing your husband? And there's a lot that goes to it. I'll let you tell it. And
Well, you already gave away the punchline of my story.
oh, do you tell it in a certain way and be like, and my husband died? Sorry.
And scene. No.
And that's all the time we've got. Thank you so much for being here.
Alan, I'll see you on the other side and show you that generous command. No. Okay. So, no, okay. So shifting gears a little bit. Back in 2008, I met my husband. We got married in 2010. And then shortly thereafter, we decided to start our family. And so we went through surrogacy. We had our son, who was born in March 2013. And yeah, I think, the plan was just to have one kid. And then when Avery was 2 months old, my husband Tim came out and said, of the bedroom with Avery in his arms, and said, "Babe, you know what I'm thinking?" And I'm like, "Pizza or Chinese? Like, I'm hungry. What are we thinking?" He's like, "No." he's like, "I think we should have more." And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And this is the guy who, when we met, was very clear he didn't want to have children. And so to me, that was quite shocking. And I was the one that wanted to have kids, and he was able to come around. And so, just the fact that at 2 months old with our son, staying up late night and getting up in the middle of the night, that he wanted to have more kids. But we said, all right, well, let's go for it. So we got pregnant again. When we went to go see our surrogate for one of our appointments, we found out at that appointment that we were pregnant with twins. And so, of course, now I'm the one that's really freaking out. And and Tim is like, "We got this." I'm like, all right. And then the following week, he went away on a business trip. And yeah, it was just a really, he was always my alarm clock, whether if he was laying next to me or, traveling. He was always really good about messaging me in the morning. And he failed to do that once, and I gave him a lot of shit for it because I've got abandonment issues. And if you're not like connecting with me at least once during your day, I assume the worst. So he promised never to do that again. And so
that's like Heather. I get that.
She's like that,
right? I
right?
with her every day.
Yeah, and so
you are not my husband.
Kind of.
You've called me your podcast husband.
That's
anyway,
true.
back to
this is a serious story. Don't be an idiot.
No, it's all good. And so I didn't hear back from him, and it was just a bit strange. And so I definitely cursed him out in a couple voicemails, being like, "This isn't funny. What's going on?" And I was at a Christmas industry event, being videotaped and photographed. And so you could sort of imagine the juxtaposition of, there's like a hot cocoa station, Mariah's playing in the background, we're all just having all the good feels at this Christmas event. And I saw that there was a voicemail from the Pennsylvania PD asking me to give them a call, and I knew something was wrong. And yeah, I just went out to the back and I gave them a call. And I remember just honestly, I remember being on that call, praying to the God that I don't believe in, and praying that it was a car accident, like, not the fatal kind, but one that I could actually handle. And the detective came on and said, "How do you know Timothy Merrill?" And I said, "Well, he's my husband. What's going on? What happened?" And then he said, "I'm really sorry, but he passed away last night in his sleep, and we believe it's a heart attack. It was a heart attack." And so, yeah, I mean, I collapsed and I couldn't believe it, and I think that, my intention in that moment was I wanted to get home where I felt safe. I wanted to get home to my 8-month-old son. I wanted to not think about how we just found out the week before that we were 11 weeks pregnant with twins. And I was, very clear in that moment that I was not going to follow through the pregnancy. I was very much going to abort. And then 6 days later, I woke up. It was the day of Tim's funeral, and it was still dark outside. And I sat at the edge of the bed, and something really hit me, which was like, fuck, like my son just lost his father. And what if something were to happen to me? I didn't want to leave him alone in this world. So I decided not only in that moment to follow through the pregnancy, but I actually announced that we were pregnant while giving my husband's eulogy at the church. Nobody knew we were pregnant. And so here we are 8 years later, and it's been a wild ride. We've been rocking and rolling ever since, and some wonderful blessings have come out of it, obviously including my 3 children. Avery is Tim's biological child, and they look exactly alike, so it's this beautiful blessing that he's left behind there. And then the girls are biologically mine, but all 3 have the same egg donor. Yeah, that's the story of my loss.
So I remember you losing Tim because I had just started dating my partner Bernadette, and she said, "Oh my God, my friend Jose, who's a planner in New York," and it was just shocking anytime someone so young and unexpectedly passes. But then to have the babies coming, what do you think it was that made you change your mind? Like, were the show's about, was it chance? And you already said you kind of don't believe in God, but you were praying to God. Like, what was that?
Honestly, if without going too far back and deeper, I'll just, in 2 sentences. I mean, I lost both of my parents at a very young age as well. So my dad, when I was 18, and that's okay, he was an asshole, good riddance. My mom at 23, and that was really difficult for me. And so I grew up as an only child. And so I felt like at 23, I was, left in the world on my own to get by. And so I was definitely projecting in my in my feeling and response to thinking about my son. I didn't want the same thing to happen to him. Let's say, he was 8-10 years old and something happened to me. I just didn't want to put him in that same position. I wanted him to feel that if something were to happen to me, that he had siblings right next to him that he could count on.
Yeah. And your kids seem really close. Are they super tight?
They are. They are really close. Lila and Avery, my tomboy, they're really close. And London is close too, but they shut her out a little bit just because she's like the girly girl, and she likes unicorns, rainbows. She farts out glitter. Like, it's like, she's insane. And Lila and Avery are not so much down for all that stuff. They like sports and jujitsu and all that stuff. So, but all 3 of them are very close.
So were you already into wedding planning before the children happened and before you lost your husband, or is this something that kind of happened out of that tragedy? I mean, so I feel like, out of death comes life, and out of life comes death. It's this great metaphysical circle, right? So at what point, I guess, I'll stop there and let you answer the question, but were you already into this, or did something inform the other?
Yeah, Alan, I mean, the timing of it all was kind of insane because I was working at the Foundry in Long Island City from 2010 till March of 2013. And there was sort of this question, Tim he did well. He made good money. He worked at Wells Fargo and Deutsche Bank before that. And so, he gave me the option to say, hey, when our son is born, do you want to be a stay-at-home dad or stay at the Foundry? And at the moment, being a stay-at-home dad felt really, really appealing. And then I had this sort of like weekend. I went to this like retreat. I had a little like kumbaya moment and realized that I could have the best of both worlds. I can actually launch my business, create the hours that I want. And also at the Foundry, I love that place, but I had peaked and I was making good money, but I was working a lot of hours. So by launching my own business, I realized that for me, it was about fear of failing. I realized over that, kumbaya weekend. And I thought, well, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to go for it. And so I launched my business the same month my son was born, March 2013. And then Tim passed away that December. And so it really ended up being a blessing that I stayed in the business, because had I decided to be a stay-at-home dad, and if that would have been the case by the time I was, he had passed away, it would have been really difficult for me to get back into the business and start the business. So what was really incredible is people like Bernadette and some amazing industry folks. I was the new guy in town, and people came out from left and right to support me. And I will always feel indebted to the wedding industry. They were, I mean, there were 3 caterers. We ended up renting out Studio 450, which was this big glass box in the sky. And that's something that I wanted for Tim's reception. And there were 3 caterers that came to cater for 200 people or more. And 2 of them were in a legal dispute with each other. And so, just the fact that they felt that strongly to support
Wow.
me and my family. I'm getting emotional now just thinking about it because that we're going on year 9 now, and it's incredible. It just really spoke to the industry, and to this day I love our industry so much.
I don't think we've mentioned on air yet, Bernadette. You mentioned Bernadette. Bernadette's your partner.
My partner, yes. Yeah. And she will fucking kill me if I don't give Beth Bernstein some props, because she is the one that I said, Beth, I want to interview Jose. And she said, okay, I'll get in touch with him for you. So Beth, I promise I will not leave you out, Beth. Beth takes credit for me and Bernadette being together, which is a little bit of a stretch, because Beth talked me into getting on Facebook. And then I accidentally outed myself on Facebook, and Bernadette saw it, and we started talking.
Oh,
she's
my
like,
gosh.
Swoop it in.
That's great. And I love Beth. She is somebody who, I wish I could see her a lot more often. She's somebody who she's just this incredible human in the world.
She is. She is my BFF. Sorry, Alan. She's my real life, lives in town with me BFF.
Oh, I get it. So Jose, when the timing of all of this is either perfect or horrible, starting a business, having a baby.
Right. And the wedding industry is not easy.
Right. So do you double down in work, or did you sort of pause and collect yourself? At what point were you, introspecting, your Kumbaya weekend? I assume that's ayahuasca, which it should be if it isn't. And so, you're going to figure out who you are, and you're starting, whether you want to or not. You have to embrace this chance and start a new chapter in your life. So again, are you looking at wedding industry and planning in your business in a new way, or is just business as normal for a while?
Yeah, well, I think, we'll call this also a blessing. The fact, that when he passed away, it was December, right? And so New York City, our industry is seasonal. And so I didn't have my first wedding until maybe late March. So it did give me some time to, grieve how I needed to grieve. But, some people know this story, but, I mentioned earlier that Tim and I got married at the Foundry in Long Island City. As a wedding planner, after Tim passed away, guess where my first wedding was? At the Foundry, at the same place that Tim and I got married. And so, imagine, my bride walking down the aisle to her.
It's devastating.
To her fiance, professing her love in the same spot Tim and I got married. And I'm in the back crying, stoic tears, just bawling my eyes out. And I'll never forget the waiter who's brushing past us, and he looks and sees me crying, and then he's like, you see, man, this is why we love Jose. He's so tapped in with his couples. He gets emotional with that.
Dude.
I'm like, you weren't there, man. You weren't there. You don't know.
And so how the babies were not born yet.
Yeah.
When you had that wedding in March, but soon, right?
Yeah, they were born June 3rd of that year. So yeah, there was a lot going on. But I had a really incredible nanny who was already in there, and she was phenomenal and still is a phenomenal person. And I definitely wasn't gonna fuck around when the girls were coming. So I had a night nurse and come in, and she was there, she was supposed to be there for 4 weeks, but I had her there for 4 months, and she was actually the one to tell me I gotta go. She cut the cord,
You can do this, Dad.
You can do it. But yeah, I mean, and I had a really massive support system. This is something I often talk about, which is, I think I had a much larger support system than most two-parent households, because when you're two parents, people assume that you got it,
Yeah.
even though you don't. It's still, yeah, it's still a shit show no matter which way you slice it. But I think also, there's ways I benefit. There's a double standard between being a single gay dad and a single mom, and in most of those double standards, I actually do benefit.
Yes.
Um, but with women, it's like there's so much pressure, and there's the motherly instinct, which obviously I don't have. And there's this expectation that women just have to have their shit together, they have to get it. So what happens is women get really prideful, and they have a lot of trouble letting people in, and they don't want to see them screaming or yelling or seeing their house is a mess. Where for me, people just assumed that I didn't have any clue what I was doing. And, my family, when they would come visit, they're like, ay, mira, bendito, él no sabe, he don't know what he's doing. Mira, he don't even know how to change a diaper. It's the other way around. Whatever it was, right? Like I was a mess in their eyes. And, the way that I responded to that shit was like, you are 100% right.
Come and help me. I need help.
I may have intentionally put that diaper on wrong. I
Wait,
wanted
it
to
doesn't go on his head, it goes on his butt? Okay, gotcha.
before or after he defecates in it. Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned for more of the episode.
Hey, VPN fam, Tony Howell here, host of the Tony Howell podcast, and I've got some questions for you. How many email addresses do you have? How many unread messages? If it is time for a tune-up, I'd invite you to check out our all-new self-paced course, Email Excellence Part 1, Pro Operations, letting AI become your new assistant. We have a limited time promotion running in April, and you can learn more at joinemailexcellence.com.
And now we're back.
I mentioned that I lost both my parents. So for me, I wasn't going to burn out this time. And so
Yeah,
I
good
wanted to
for
make
you.
sure that I had a really strong support system, and really, truly, I had, my best friend, Ryan, basically moved in for that first year. And people were always really willing to help. I think it was a year and a half where I stopped kicking people out of the house finally.
That
Yeah.
takes a lot of self-awareness and a lot of
It really does.
a lack of pride, I guess, because you were saying, the women get prideful stereotypically, and I think you're right, because as a society,
I wanted all the help. Fuck that noise. I was like, give me. I have
Good.
4 kids. I was
Really?
like, all the help. Yeah, no.
Did you go through a lot of therapy after your parents died? Because in my 20s, if I lost my parents, I would have just like fallen down this dark rabbit hole of who knows what. Like I would have not had the self-awareness that I think you had at that age.
Oh, totally. Listen, when I was 23, and I had only been here for 6 months after my mom passed. And so I did all the wrong things. Like I was out late, I was drinking a lot, I was doing coke, and I was never addicted to anything, but it was just always there. And I was in the restaurant business, I was going to sex clubs, like I'm totally open about this. And I was just making really, really bad decisions in my life. And so I learned that this time, and I did do therapy. I did therapy for 10 years. I mean, also I was 23 in New York City. Let's be honest. We were, I think, it's not like it's far fetched from what some of us experienced when we moved to the new city. But, when I went in hard. And I think this time I knew that, yes, I'm older. And I have children now, so I have to be more responsible. But I knew that the difference between the first time around of grieving and the second time around was healthy distractions versus unhealthy distractions. And so that really was through therapy, I was really able to hone in on a lot of that stuff.
Have you been able to use that skill set in your business and in your parenting, and maybe even and I'm really excited to move into talking about your NYC gay dad viral stuff, because I just think it's fascinating. But those feel like skill sets that apply everywhere.
Yeah. So you mean in terms of like it does. So I think like for planning weddings and my business, I think I'm really, as the description goes, you said it in the beginning, but I'm really calm under pressure.
Yeah.
And, I've had kitchens, I was at Cipriani and somebody was burning, one of the staff members accidentally burned actually, let's be honest, it was actually my assistant that actually accidentally burned the back of the kitchen down. And I
Oops.
oops, sorry, Cipriani. I know you've only been around since like 1800, but people are always like, "Are you on drugs?" Like I haven't done drugs since I was like in my 20s, but they're like, you're always so calm under the craziest situations." And I think, look, once you've lost somebody really close to you, and like there's nothing that I think you can't handle beyond that point. There might be a couple exceptions, right? But a wedding, like some shit going down at a wedding, that's easy.
You have to be calm at weddings.
In
you have
comparison,
to be the rocks because everyone else is freaking out.
Yeah, but all those kids.
Yeah. And wedding planners still, I think, continue to have a bit of a bad reputation. And I
Totally.
think, and I get it for good reason. I think a lot of us come with like this godlike complex worse than DJs. And I think that the reality.
I love how
It's
you
true.
say that so matter of fact, worse than DJs. Like there's nobody worse
Think
than
about the
DJs.
worst people in the profession. DJs.
Oh my
Top
God.
of the list. Top of the list, DJs.
I mean, DJs will show up on the day of, we're like, no, this is my timeline. This is how I'm going to
That's
roll.
true. That's true.
Because I'm the shit. But I think, so I don't, that's not how I operate. I think, given the help that I had in my personal life, the support systems, that's how I treat weddings. For me, it's very collaborative.
Mhm.
I send out timelines several weeks before, and I give all vendors a week to come back with corrections, revisions, and suggestions so
That's
that
how to do it.
they feel heard and respected, and they feel like they're a part of a team, so that when we send out the updated timeline, everyone's ready to, have a good time. But I think under pressure, I'm pretty good. And I think, having to deal with loss and grief has a lot to do with that.
Okay, so first of all, I think the fact that you still have a thriving wedding planning business after the pandemic speaks
Yeah.
an awful lot to how well respected you are in the industry, because a lot of people don't. But quarantine started. Tell us about this moment where you were like, well, let's just play with TikTok.
Yeah, look, okay, so I don't know who your audience is necessarily.
Neither do we. No kidding.
They're a loving bunch of forgiving and amazing people.
Yeah, so I'll give you the scripted response, and then I'll give you the real that's attached to the scripted response, which is, the scripted response is that I think like many of us parents, we were dealt with triple duty. We had a parent, we had to homeschool, and we had to, make our businesses survive if we weren't in some secure 9-to-5 job getting a steady paycheck. And so the idea that, I had an au pair who had to go back because the borders closed in Argentina. She was from Argentina. And so I was like, man, I'm going to be here. It's just going to be me and them. And I need a way to break all of this up.
Yeah.
And so, I thought it could be really fun to just start doing some silly videos. The real that's attached to that is if my kids are driving me crazy, if I reach to a point where I'm finding that I'm yelling a little bit more than usual, if my patience is shorter than normal, it's time for me to take care of business. It's time for some self-care and go out, have a date, perhaps a hookup. You know what I mean? Like I need to figure out how to rejuvenate, and so that I could come back and be super dad, right?
All parents everywhere. Yeah.
So to me, it was clear that, well, no, not all parents everywhere, because parents didn't even want to have sex with them other partners during the pandemic.
Well, and I don't necessarily mean the hookup, but the self-care. Like when you find yourself being a really shitty parent, you have to do something for yourself.
Oh, yes. The self-care part. Yes.
Oh, I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, if I see my kids all the time, I am the worst. Like I need time to myself so I can be a better dad for them. Yeah.
100%. And I do believe, I don't judge parents that say I put my kids first. I think that's great and that's really wonderful. But I do come from the mindset of putting myself first
Yeah,
because, just like you said, Alan, it's that cliche of putting the mask on a plane before you help
Mhm.
absolutely.
the other person. If I know that if I'm good, if I take a 3-day trip somewhere and I come back, I like my kids are going to benefit greatly
Yep.
from it.
Mhm.
So I do put myself first, and my kids are so much better
Yeah.
humans because of it. Oh, so yeah, I mean the videos. Yeah, we decided to do these videos, and I honestly, it was for us. And if anybody had followed me before TikTok, people know that I was really uh, open on social media, certainly through the grieving process. And,
Hmm.
I've always documented my life. And this way I was just doing it in a way that was in the form of TikTok. And they ended up going viral. I think at first, some of them were geared towards was related to the pandemic. Some of it was geared towards LGBTQ. Some of it was geared towards Latinx. But I think I learned that, or parents were just connecting that it was relatable content despite not fitting in any of those categories. And so I think what happened was, my husband passed away 9 years ago, but when videos go viral, they see the funny content or the stuff that's going viral. But once a few videos go viral, then people want to do a deeper dive. Like, well,
Yep.
why is he a single dad?
Yep.
Let's find out who he really is instead of doing these silly videos. And I think that once I started sharing some of that, the media caught on, and then the media wanted to tell my story because I think it is it is a story to be told. And it was during the pandemic, I think people were tired of really a lot of negativity and how depressing everything was. So they just were really featuring stories of perseverance and
Hmm.
positivity. And I was just at the right place at the right time for all of that.
Were the videos the your form of self-care when you couldn't leave and get away?
Oh yeah, right. That's how that I should have wrapped that one up. You're
That's okay.
absolutely no, you're right. Like that really was that was it. Like that's how we were all four of us were able to rejuvenate to, having Avery focused on school and having, the girls do the same and let's if I know I'm going to document something, then we could do things that are fun and productive, like making something silly in the kitchen instead of there is this, people can have negative feelings about social media. It does have its drawbacks. I have to be honest and say, I do feed off of social media, certainly to an extent, because I know that I'm more motivated to do different and fun things with my kids if I know I'm going to document it versus just laying on the couch and just having them be on their iPads all day, right?
Sure.
Which I've also done. But I think it motivates me to do that, which in turn just ends up inspiring, other folks.
So I
Yeah.
know zero about TikTok, and I'm just starting to get into this, and I'm scared out of my bejesus mind. Um,
It's
and
hard
I will
though.
pray to the God that I don't believe in to be successful on TikTok. So, the for you do you find, I guess, were you editing before the creativity of social media and making videos and in, I guess, looking back on what you've done so far, I feel like it's sort of a diary, a journal of sorts to watch your children grow up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because now you get to look back in time and see what you're doing in particular moments, and you're documenting the happy times and whatnot, and you just have to do it publicly so you can inspire others. But do you do it, I know you talked about doing it for self-care, but is it more for your self-care, or is it for your family? Like, do you get more out of it from a family perspective?
I think it's a combination of a few things. I think initially it was really for us, and you're right. Like I see our post as a timeline.
Mhm.
My kids, I think again because of the loss that I've dealt with, I don't have like videos of myself as a kid. Most of us don't have videos of ourselves as kids.
Right.
And after my parents passed away, I'm like, well, wait, shit, fuck, I've got questions like that will never be answered, right? Like, how much of a queen was I when I was 5 years old? You know what I mean? Like, was my list stronger then than it is now? Like, I've got questions and they'll never be answered. And so for me, documenting has always been important. It's something I've always done for many, many years. And I was a video editor before I became a wedding planner. So that hones in on a thought you just had. And so it does make editing for me more, it makes it easier. What happened was, I think initially it was just for my family and the people that were following us. And then there was one post in particular that made me realize that there's something bigger happening here, because I don't shy away from controversy either. And so, when if I misspeaking here, I can't remember his title, but the CEO of Goya came out in support of Trump.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and so being Puerto Rican, being Latin, like Goya is like our jam, and everything that I have I have a whole cabinet just for Goya stuff, and
Cafe Bustelo.
And Cafe Bustelo. And so everything for me was,
I've seen that video.
So that was really like disappointing in our community. And so I ended up doing a TikTok post where I simulated a funeral for Goya products in our home.
That's amazing.
So I had my kids dress up in black, and I had us like,
we're gonna have to spare that.
Yeah, and I had us take out all the Goya products. I had them put it in this styrofoam box, and on top of it said "Rest in peace, R.I.P." And then it happened to be raining that day, so then we all just waved at this, coffin-like thing of Goya products, which is going down a stream down our street, and then it shows us at the end like dancing a little salsa, right? Now, what happened was I did all the proper or improper hashtags, and all of a sudden that was another one that blew up, but it's what they call it negative viral, and so
it pissed people off.
It pissed a lot of people off, and for 2 weeks on Instagram, not even TikTok, on Instagram, if you typed in Goya, just Goya, the very top 3 of all of the Goya whatever posts, on the right side was Alexandra Ocasio, because she came out really strong against it. On the far left side was Ivanka Trump holding up a Goya product in the Oval Office.
Wow.
And smack dead center was my kids walking down in black doing this like funeral service for Goya products. And so literally for 3 weeks and 2 weeks. And so so I got so much like virtual hate mail, people threatening us, people saying you're, calling me faggot, saying you're like the worst father, saying that I'm teaching my kids how to hate the president, how to waste food. Now, that food was donated. My kids had no idea it had even to do with Trump. They were like 4 and 5 at the time. And so I was just a way of them to have fun. Anyway, I think that was the first time that it sort of hit me that, oh wow, shit, like there was something bigger happening with our account here. And it's something to be mindful of. We've done stuff with Black Lives Matter, LGBT, we definitely do. We take a stand for things, but now I do it a little bit more thoughtfully, because at the end of the day, my job is to protect my children. And so, I'll never shy away from us taking a stand on things we believe in. Actually, just yesterday, we just partnered up with the CDC, and we're doing a 4-part series about misinformation that kids are getting on the playground about the vaccine. And so I did part 3. Yeah, I did.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, and then I'll tell you why I was laughing.
You're being tracked with a GPS because you've been injected. I'm not kidding. This shit's going around, right? So
I know.
So I agreed to partner up with the CDC because it's something, we believe in being vaccinated. We believe in kids being vaccinated. And so just yesterday, if you look at that post, there's somebody on there that said, this. I disagree, and I think you need to stick to the posts that we all actually want to see, type
Oh,
of thing.
fuck
And of course,
them.
I replied, and I don't care if anybody disagrees. I think that's totally fine. But now you're going to dictate what I should or should not post, and obviously, this person hasn't been following me long enough to know that, I don't shy away from things that we believe in.
Well, I think you gracefully glossed over, I was partnered with the CDC. Like,
Right.
I want to get into how that happened in the first place. But then the reason I was laughing was I was like, because I'm thinking of my 5-year-old who's like, hey, Susie, you know what I heard? I heard that in your milk that you're drinking right now, there's a tracker, and the vaccine amplifies its effect. Like I'm picturing my kids, conspiracy theorizing
Totally.
on the playground.
Well, depending on where you are in the world, right? Where you are in that, you're at that breakfast table with your parents, and you're overhearing your parents say crazy shit, right? And
Yeah.
and if it sounds sci-fi, why wouldn't you share it with Bob, who's sitting next to you, while you're putting some blocks together? You know what I mean? Like, that's cool. Like, let's veer off from like the stupid shit we're learning in school. Let me tell you something really cool I heard this morning.
You stole my dinosaur, and vaccines are a hoax. So
Totally.
Okay, yeah, Alan's right about the CDC drop, and that was actually, so I'm gonna, and I know this isn't all of them. I'm gonna go back. The Today Show, Now This News, Ellen's Game of Games, the Tamron Hall Show, Univision, the Drew Barrymore Show, co-host of Parenting Wins, named TikTok's 2021 Latinx Trailblazer. Like, the fuck? Like, at what point did that start happening, and what were you thinking about it? And the CDC, let's add the CDC to it.
Yeah, I think people were organically, I think that's one of the cool things about what happened is a lot of people, that overused word of pivoting last year or in 2020. I think for us, there was no intentional pivot. It was just all really organic. And, it took like one media person. Tamron Hall was the first one. Their people reached out and said, hey, we love your content and we think it's positive. Can we post? And then from there, it just went from the next to the next to the next. And our biggest two was, being interviewed by Craig Melvin from the Today Show. And then from there, we were on the cover of Parents Latino magazine, which was huge because we're the first gay dad on their cover. And not only was not only was it a parenting magazine, but it was also geared towards the Latin market, which, as we may or may not know, it can be a very homophobic culture. And so, it was just such this wonderful thing that was just happening. And I don't know, I think honestly, like COVID, Black Lives Matter, just all of that stuff, they were looking for people that checked off these boxes. And I some people have called me a unicorn in that sense, because I'm not just a Latin dad. I'm not just LGBTQ.
I have a mug that says, in a world where you can be anything, be a fucking unicorn. And now I feel like I need to send it to you.
Yeah, I would love that. And so, yeah, and I think for us, it's been like, listen, we'll ride this wave and we'll see what happens with it. And then things got really crazy where campaigns were paying us to do like a 30-second TikTok and probably maybe contractually, I won't mention any names, but we've done some, well, I can tell you what we've done, like stuff for Old Navy and Microsoft and
Royal Caribbean, right?
Royal Caribbean, like we've done a bunch of stuff, but there are now campaigns that there are people that have reached out to us and say, hey, would you promote this? And I might be like, well, maybe, I don't know. And they're like, well, would you do it for 20,000 for a 60-second TikTok? I'm like, yeah, like, you want me to
not just free product, but 20 grand? Yes.
Right. Like, I'll use Clorox as an example because I did not do any campaign with Clorox, but I'm like, you want me to douse myself in Clorox? I'll do it. Like, if for 20K, like, just tell me what to do. And it's kind of shocking because, to be honest, like, 20,000 is like, even listen, our first campaign, they offered us 200. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
$200,
Like,
not
$200. Yes.
200,000.
Sorry. Yes. Yes. $200. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. They're going to pay us to do something we already like doing. We just have to mention their name. And now we're sort of like at this 20K bracket. And I'm like, oh my God, do you understand? Well, let me use 10K because 10K was like a milestone for us. And I'm like, this is close to what we charge our partial planning clients
Yeah.
in the wedding
And
industry.
you work
And I'm with them
hundreds of
for a
hours.
year and a half. I'm with them for a year and a half, but you are offering me the same thing to do something with my kids that I already love doing. And it's only like between filming, editing, and sending, we're done in less than an hour. And you want to charge me that amount? And for me, 10,000, 20,000 is a shitload of money, but for them, it's a drop in the bucket because they're not paying a celebrity 200,000 to do what they're asking me to do. So for me, it's like a win-win, and for our kids too. So, unexpectedly, here's this whole other residual income, and I don't even know if I'd call it residual at this point. I'm making just as much doing this stuff as I am doing weddings, and now NYC Gay Dad is an LLC. It's like a legitimate business now. And now I take 50% of that and I put it into my wedding planning business so I could hire someone full time so that my business grows over here and I could focus over here and grow that further over here. So the whole thing, I mean, I'm getting a bit like excited and emotional about it because I don't think I've just told it like this before. And it's just sort of like hitting me like, holy shit. And it's all happened like organically and not out of like, intention of like, this is what I want to do. And certainly, halfway through it does become like, or we have to strategize a little bit more, but really it has
talk
been
about embracing chance and leaning all the way in.
Yeah. And no matter what industry you're in, I think we sort of fall into the trap of, if you're doing something else outside of what your main thing is, then it's sort of looked down upon. It means that maybe whatever your main thing is, you're not so successful at or you're good at because you have to you're looking for money elsewhere. And one of the things that I would like to, talk about and tell folks is like, when you're open to possibility, then more comes to you. And if you were good at something when you were a kid, if you were good at just try things out. Just be really open to possibility because you may be surprised. You may wake up one day and you're doing really well for yourself and your family and your support systems, right? So I don't know.
If you enjoy what you're doing, it's not work, and all of a sudden you're doing lots of it.
You can be an ambivert in this situation. You can have multiple talents and skills, and also you learn new things and you change and you grow and you like new things, and there's just room for embracing all of that.
I just learned a new word, ambivert.
Yeah, I was just gonna talk about what is it? Ambio what?
I call it a multi-hyphenate. I assume they're the same thing.
I'm probably bastardizing the use though. An ambivert is somebody who is sometimes an introvert and sometimes an extrovert, but you can apply it to having different skills and doing different work. You can have all of these different passions. Yeah.
I just Googled it.
I love that.
Ambivert. A person whose personality has a balance of extrovert and introvert features. Ambivert.
Incredible.
There you go. There. If nothing else, you've learned a word today, listeners. Thank you.
Even if I pronounced it wrong the first time, and that is going to haunt me in my sleep. So we can just be really.
Oh my God, no, this is great. That's why Alan is so fantastic. He's holding you accountable.
Is that why Alan's so fantastic? I don't know.
Tell me more about how I'm fantastic.
Okay, so Jose, this is incredible. And I was going to ask you, and then you just did it, if you were thinking about moving away from events to lean more into this, but you just explained how you're going to build that and maybe not be the center, I think is what I heard, is have lots of support there so you can still run this business that you feel passion for and grow this, which is family. So it's more time with your kids. Mm-hmm. Any idea? We got pushed back on this question once with one of our guests. What kind of chance you're looking to embrace next? Is there something out there that you're thinking about or you want to try or you're excited about?
So So yes. And by the way, I get that question a lot from people in the industry. Do you still want to do weddings? And I'm like, are you asking me as my competition or as a friend? You know, like, and I still love doing what I do. So, the goal is to maybe do less weddings and make more money, right? So, but
Yes.
I'll never stop doing weddings. I absolutely love it. I think when we're talking about chance and what I'm looking forward to in the future, there are a couple projects that are in the works. I'm working with someone in particular, meeting with writers who they want to potentially turn my story into a 30-minute sitcom.
Yes, please. Yes.
And that could be really, interesting. And they want to do like a Veep style or like Lisa Kudrow's comeback type of thing where like, something sort of born out of, tragedy, but then it's just about all the follies of like a single dad in New York City raising three kids with three very different personalities while he's going on all these crazy dates, right? So
Yes.
there's possibility there. And then, there's a children's book that we're working on. And yeah, there's a couple other projects that we're currently, and I'm just sharing these things for the first time out of any of the interviews that I've done.
You.
Yeah, I don't know. So these are because, well, nobody's asked me that question, and so these are things that are in the future that are hopeful, hopefully in our future to, just create more awareness, positivity, and inspire all families, despite your family dynamic and makeup.
All right, one more quick break. Hang on a second. All right, here's the rest of the episode. Looking back at everything, I know that was supposed to be the last question, but I have one more. Looking back at everything you've been on, all the shows and the lives you've influenced with the wedding planning, and now the social media channel, and you're inspiring and you're letting people know. I've got another couple. They're a gay couple who are documenting their whole road to adoption online as well, and they've become very big influencers themselves.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite sort of avenue or medium or, I guess, focus that brings you the most joy and the most creativity or most creatively fulfilled? Or is it just like being the multi-hyphenate, you have to have all of it to be whole?
Yeah, oh man, I love that question. And it's a question that I know I won't be able to answer fully because it's going to have me thinking a lot throughout the day about it. But right off the bat, I'll say, out of the mediums, I'm comfortable in front of a camera. I'm not necessarily comfortable in front of a still camera, but I'm comfortable in front of a camera because I get to just be me. And so for me, to be able to host something where, I'm inspiring others who are possibly going through their own changes, whether it's, moving to a new city or going through a divorce or whatever it is. Like my ultimate, fantasy and the medium that will really feel like, oh, we've arrived is if I'm in that moment in a chair where I also like the idea of like co-hosting even more because I think I really believe in bouncing up, like how you guys are bouncing off.
I want to co-host something with you. Can we play? Can we do something fun together?
Yeah, and we definitely can. And so there has to be there's a space for that somewhere, and I would love to do that in some video form, whether if it's through the interwebs or actual television. That would be really, really fantastic. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. That's my answer to that.
You're so much fun. I knew that you would be, and you're really fun to. I do really poorly conceived TikToks, and they take me forever, and I find them really hard. And so when I look at your stuff, I'm like, man, this must take a lot of time and a lot of work. But I can tell that you really enjoy it. Can you tell folks how they can connect with you and follow you and find you and stay up to speed on all these incredible things you're doing?
Yeah, well, somehow I nailed down NYC Gay Dad years ago. And so luckily that's just what it is across the board on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter. So that's an easy one to remember. And then it's the same for José Rolón events. So you could, if you put in Jose Rolón events, you can see everything that we're up to. And nycgaydad.com actually will show a lot of things that we've been doing, including co-hosting a parenting show, that web series that we did last year. And so, yeah, NYC Gay Dad across the board.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. It was so nice to meet you. And hopefully,
Alan, very nice to meet you.
Hopefully we'll see each other on the streets here in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Jose, thank you so much for being here and just for being awesome and putting all of this goodness out into the world, because all of those media platforms that have reached out, they're right. Like it just makes the world better. So thank you for joining us.
It was great. Great connecting with both of you.
What a cool guy.
I want him to be my dad.
I want him to be our best friend. Like
we
our
say that about
podcast
everybody. We have such great guests, don't we? we have like the best guests.
The best.
And I love this. God, I love how people can make whole new careers. This is when I start feeling like an old fart. Like, get off my lawn. But people make whole careers posting not stupid viral videos jumping their Teslas in California, right? Did you see that video recently, by the way?
No.
Don't do that. A YouTuber jumped a Tesla and it messed up so many things. Anyway, don't look it up because don't encourage this person. But Jose is promoting good messaging. He is standing up for what is right. He is documenting his children's life at a young age in a very safe and healthy way, I think. And I just love everything that is wrapped up into this package. And he's created this whole positive outlook on life out of, this intense, unexpected tragedy.
Yeah, he has. And it is that I do remember really clearly when Tim passed and Barnett going, oh my God, like, it's just so shocking to hear something like that. And also the world is really small. Talk about embracing chance, leaning in. Often we'll have to say, oh, what was the chance there? We kind of have to lead that. We did not have to do that in this conversation because every other word out of Jose's mouth was like, and I leaned into this chance and then this crazy opportunity. It was just fantastic. Y'all should follow him because it's creative and clever and funny. He's really funny.
He said something too, complimentary to what you just said was, he said that in the interview that when you're open to chance, then more opportunity. When you're open to opportunity, more opportunity just keeps falling into your lap. And I think it's training your brain. It's training your psyche to be open to these opportunities when they come in front of you. Because I think it really is a skill you have to develop to learn to recognize potential opportunities. And then there's always just kind of some things you hear these stories of like, it's this bartending at Starbucks and I got discovered and now I'm a big megastar. Like that happens, but it's so rare. But I think so many people have the opportunity to embrace opportunities, but they don't realize it. So when you start noticing these things, it's a skill set you have to develop to then have one opportunity build on the other, build on the next, build on the next, and then all of a sudden you turn around and you've climbed to the top of a mountain without realizing it.
Absolutely. And you're at the top of the mountain, you don't even realize you got there, and you realize there's another mountain right over there that you think it might be fun to try climbing. Quite frankly, we never really talk about my work here, but that's the core of my coaching method, the Brave method.
Wait, you work?
I do.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, no, we won't do that right now. But that is this whole, it's like stop and pause and be aware and celebrate, because we push and push and push and go and go and go. And we don't stop to look at all the little things that we're doing that add up to getting us where we are. And maybe even especially if where you are right now as a listener isn't exactly where you want to be. But if you look back a year or 2 years or 3 years, chances are pretty good you're a lot further along than you were, and you haven't given yourself credit for it.
Absolutely. There's a lot. We've heard about this. We've seen this common theme in our guests. Everybody looks at their past, I put in air quotes, failures, and uses them as learning opportunities and stepping stones. And I mean, even Jim Jamiro, we go back to him, like, what was the biggest failure you turned into an opportunity? He's like, it does not compute. What is a failure?
His biggest failure was not talking Disney into agreeing to start the Disney Channel when it was, what did he say, 19 cents? I don't know.
Oh yeah, what it cost not millions of dollars to get into the satellite game. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But just people like that, people like Jose who have experienced loss, experienced tragedy, experienced failure, who are just like, all right, well, you have no choice but to move forward and then learn from it and get better. I love that. I love that. And everybody needs to do it. And I know it's harder for some people for some reasons, obviously.
Absolutely.
And so everybody's got a different path and a different journey. But I mean, if you take nothing else out of this podcast, just embrace opportunity and learn from failures, right?
Yeah.
That's what life is.
I think the key is don't assume it's all lost or that it's all bad or that you can't get out or you can't create a change. Just look for a crack somewhere in the roadblock that's in front of you, because it's there. You might have to get creative. You might have to get a chisel, like what's it? The old saying used to be, if there's not a seat at the table, bring your own chair. And then now it says, just build your own fucking table.
Yep.
And I think that's what we're talking about.
Well, now
that's
you can 3D print it, but
only if you can afford the 3D printer, Alan.
Well, let's get out of here. Let's wrap up and go look for our own crack.
Look for your own okay. You're going to end on looking for our own crack? Is that what?
You took it there.
But I was talking about in like a big, cement wall, and I know you didn't mean it like that.
I know it.
No, really. This was fun. I love Jose, and I'm so glad that he was here with us today. It was really great. Folks, we're glad you're hanging out with us. We want to hear what you think of the show. We want to hear about the chance opportunities you're embracing, what's happening in your life. Alan, how can they do that?
They can follow us on Instagram at wasitchance, and also email us at wasitchancepodcast@gmail.com. That is Gmail for those who pronounce it properly.
You're such a nut. You can. And we respond to you directly. There's no big machine behind it. It's just me and Alan. So if you send us a DM, we're hiding in the cracks. If you send us a DM, if you send us an email, one of us will get back to you personally. It'll probably be me, let's be honest. You have been listening to Was It Chance, the podcast about embracing opportunity and taking intentional risk for your creative life. I'm Heather Vickery.
And I'm Alan Seal.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.